quick. This is the little TAS I made of this track. We're going to look at... I also mentioned that I had to slow this down so much that my editing software couldn't speed it back up properly at some points. But this is really just to show that from start, if you get the tricks you need, here's trick 1 coming up. And remember this, we've seen this jump a lot. This jump, you lose time if you get the skip that makes you go over the podium. But if you get this skip, which is actually possible in game, and I'll show it out afterwards, you get launched up at a weird angle and get a 30-16 first lap as opposed to a 30-40. So enormous time save there for the end of lap 1. The next trick comes up pretty soon. It's coming up right here. And this skip is hard enough to get because both enemies have to be the exact distance from each other and the exact distance from the mogul. And if they're in lanes 3 and 4, I actually get the skip even better. But we use instant cooldown cheat to actually just like not have to let off the gas and just time this out. But if that skip happens in lanes 3 or 4, my engine is cooled down and I can just hammer on the gas. If not, I lose about 0.2 to having to let off the gas. So it's a big amount when you're talking about trying to save 0.47 overall. So if we get that trick too, which I've gotten a few times, I've never really gotten in the bottom lane. That's what I'm waiting for. And then this final trick right here. Excuse me. And after all that, we actually do see that we could just eke out a time of 59.95 if we do everything perfect and the astronomical odds decide to line up for us. Just going to explain one other thing real quick and why this trick doesn't work at the beginning of lap 1. This trick here only works at the beginning of lap 2. End of lap 2, because at the if you do it at the end of lap 1, here's lap 1. Oh, lap 2 started. We're in the air losing time. So that is why this on the ground bunny hop only works in lap 2. If we get it in lap 1, it actually loses us time, which is why the lap 1 skip is this instead of going over it, right? The difference between flying up and ramping off the enemy and ramping over them and crashing into them is like a pixel. So if their back tire, I thought you would enjoy this. If their back tire is on the mogul when I wheelie over them, they enter an invuln state and I crash into them. So I freeze them and I can launch off of them and get a little height to get that. Yeah, this might be the final insane optimization I do. Because I did not think it was possible. I did the math on my own world record, on my own double R, and I was like, maybe a minute 0.1 is possible. But then we tested it out and we saw that we can actually get 59.95. I'll show you one other thing real quick. I also have a compilation. By the way, this thing took me forever to make because it took me 4 hours to just build the speed run. And I was testing out some other stuff and I found out some stuff. I can't manipulate it, but I might understand it a little better. So these are all 3 tricks that we actually need, not tasked, and appearing in actual runs. I just got chilly. I want to turn my AC off because it's like blowing right on my legs and I'm in short shorts. So this is what skip 1 will look like in real time. Now, mind you, we also got a 30-13 on that and I beat my TAS. So there's a tiny little bit more wiggle room, but look at this angle and there's no manip here. I actually realized that, like, I let off the gas for a nanosecond because I was going to overheat, and I accelerated over them, like, as I drove over them, and their arc, perfect arc. I mean, like, 95 times out of 100, if you land this angle, you're crashing. But somehow, I got my back tire just bunk perfectly 30-13. This is the second trick of the race taken from the current 3rd place record holder, who they get to skip in the bottom 3 and 4 lanes, and this is what it does. You don't have to slow down at all there. I cut it off a little too quick, but let's look at it again. So if it's in lanes 3 and 4, he can actually go over this first guy. And what happened is they got really lucky and the other driver drove into them. So they got the combined height from 2 enemies at once and also hit the engine cooldown strip. Now the difference between this point and the next engine cooldown strip, I lose roughly 0.18 to 0.23. About. So even if I get the skip, if it's in the wrong lane, I'm losing time compared to this in my mind. And then the final skip here, we've showed before, is either going to be where I roll over the enemy and bunny hop and continue straight. And I got to make this a split-second decision too. And I also have to try to overheat properly and overheat as soon as we take off so we get the full speed from being on the ground but stop instantly in the air. And when you overheat in the air, it forces you down. If we were at a different angle, it would force us down onto the hill of the podium and we'd have to drive up. Because the angle's right, we force ourselves down and turn a 1 minute, 75 lap into a 1 minute 47. So let's look at this one more time. This is why it says Bronze Kyoto Unholy Trinity at the bottom of the screen when it loads up. Because you need this fucking pixel perfect 3013 bullshit. A 3015 will get it. You need that. Which took the other guy 700 attempts. I'm closing in on 3,000 attempts in the past 3 weeks. I've been kind of doing like an hour a day for 21 days. And when I brought out my actual tally, it's about 160 attempts an hour with all the restarts and stuff. So, 20 hours of, 100, we're cranking up the attempts. And that's not even counting the 30 hours of attempts to get the first world record and the 20 hours to catch the next one. But yeah, the Unholy Trinity, I'm glad you enjoy that. This is what we need for this. Let's look at it one more time full speed. You need this ridiculous shit right here. Which has happened to me 4 times out of 1 billion attempts. This I've gotten once. And this I've got a few times. I actually sort of have this down to a little bit of a science, and that is the only part of the run that is skill-based, besides not crashing and fucking up. This final trick requires me to maintain the perfect absolute, I just read your word absolute and said it, the perfect amount of, this is rough. The sheer odds, like you said, yeah, to get this opportunity are going to be pretty crazy. That's why it is now the dream goal, so, thank you. I appreciate that. Some people might call it foolish. I think it's slightly commendable as well. Thank you. But, it's also calming for me. So I actually do get something out of it as well. It isn't just all punishment, but, yeah, this is going to be rough. This might happen the next time we fire it up. This might happen in 5 years, in a year, never. Yeah,